Good afternoon, everybody. Big Mike back here with you once again. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be talking about the week that was in pro wrestling. So that's going to be WWE Monday Night Raw, NWA Power, and finishing up with AEW Dynamite. Definitely a very interesting week. So let's start on it with WWE Raw. And we start off with a promo from the World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther. Gets to the ring and he says, "All that matters now is I'm still champion. I don't live in the past, and ahead is my greatest challenge to the title ever." And I've got a lot to say about Priest, and before he can continue, out comes the challenger, Damian Priest, in which it was revealed that this match will go down at Survivor Series, which is very interesting because a lot of people had Punk in that spot. So we'll see what happens there. So Priest starts out saying, No. The entire world advertises this, and you're going to say this to my face. Gunther continues to say, and then you are. Priest interrupts. "Say what you want to say about me. I'm street trash. A bum. Well, believe you me, while I was out there working my ass off outside of WWE, you didn't. You got the call almost immediately. And I understood the vibes that were coming from you, that you were this unstoppable beast. But on your last challenge, you felt down. You didn't think I could beat you. But if it wasn't for Finn, you wouldn't be champion now. And now that vibe has faded, and you doubt yourself." Then Gunther replies, Priest interrupts, "And this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're full of doubt. You know you can't beat me. And if it had been anyone else, I'd be on my back. So take your shot." Gunther looks like he's about to throw a hit, but he relents. With Priest continuing, "I know you won't. Because if you did, I'd drop you right here." Then out comes who I thought was going to be GM Adam Priest. Instead, it was Gunther's second in command of Imperium. That's Ludwig Kaiser. Saying, "Hold on a second. What are we doing here? Gunther has already beaten you. Now why don't you get out of here and save yourself a beating? Because you are not worthy." Gunther then puts his entire hand on Kaiser's microphone, pulls it down, and then Kaiser and Gunther look at each other. They're kind of jawing. And then Kaiser goes then after Priest. Priest retaliates. Gunther bails then. So a very interesting opening segment that sets up a couple of things. It makes the world title match at Survivor Series a little bit more interesting. But then you've got the Kaiser element. Where's his allegiances lie? Is it going to be with Gunther? Or is he going to strike out on his own? Only time will tell. Then we go backstage. They're in Gorilla. It's Io Sky and Kairi Sane. They're in here for an interview. They're saying, "No, we're ready for this. We have other business. We have some business to handle tonight with Pure Fusion Collective." Then out of freaking nowhere, here's Dakota Kai. She comes in, she hugs her teammates, and she says, "As happy as I am, no one is going to bring us down." and I'm going to get my revenge on Pure Fusion Collective. Now, if you remember, it was Pure Fusion Collective that put Dakota Kai on the shelf. So this is her revenge match, which is great storytelling. Love it. So then we get a nice little Veterans Day tribute, that's always very classy. I like it when pro wrestling promotions do stuff like that. Then we see Kofi Kingston. He's just kind of wandering around backstage. He runs into R-Truth. And he says thank you to Truth for helping them out with Final Testament. Sorry we didn't return the favor. But for whatever reason, Woods didn't really want to. Woods, then, who just kind of comes in the back, and he's got this, it looks like he's almost furious with Kofi. So then he comes in, he and Kofi start arguing a little bit. Then in walks Pete Dunne, who walks right up to R-Truth and says, you know my name is, I ain't Butch anymore. Then Kofi turns to Pete Dunne and says, hey, if you got an issue with him, you got an issue with me. And maybe we should handle things out there. So Pete Dunne goes one way, Woods goes another. And then Truth is like, ooh, things are getting exciting. Truth is such a treasure, man. He is so good with his comedic timing. So then we go to our first matchup of the evening, in which, take your time, WWE. It's a 6-woman tag, as it's Damage Control, so that's Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane, take on the Pure Fusion Collective. That is the worst name I ever heard. So that's Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville. And, it was fine for a showcase match, I guess. Pretty much all the women got all their stuff in. But, eventually, Damage Control pick up the win with an over-the-moonsault by Sky. Does seem like they're pushing Io Sky a bit more, which is fine by me. We then get a video recap of the Bloodline storyline that happened on SmackDown, showing that we're going to be getting a 5-on-5 match at War Games at Survivor Series. So then we cut backstage. Jay and Sami Zayn are there. They're starting talking. We didn't really get much, but then in walks Jimmy, in which Jay turns to him and say, hey, we got a problem? Jimmy then says, no problem, but we do need a 5th man for War Games. We got no friends on Raw or SmackDown. Then Sami Zayn says, give me a minute. I might know a guy. And this guy knows? Well, wait, I'll tell you in a little bit. So next up, we got Kofi Kingston taking on Pete Dunne. And I'm going to say this. The wrestling in this match was so crisp, so good. These two have surprisingly good chemistry. Especially with Pete Dunne's strong style against the more energetic Kofi Kingston. I wouldn't say he's a pure high flyer anymore, but he definitely has a higher energy than the rest of them. One point, Kofi goes for a Trouble in Paradise. Pete Dunne rolls outside the ring. And then Woods takes out Pete Dunne with the ref distracted. Kofi then goes on the outside, gets in Woods' face. They get back in. Pete Dunne with a kick into a bitter end for the victory. So hopefully they do something interesting with Pete Dunne soon. Then post-match, we get something kind of interesting. As we see Woods kind of trying to help Kofi to the back, then Kofi shoves him away. I am seriously surprised we are getting a New Day breakup. But, yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting. Especially if we get Big E back. So, that should be fun. We then get a recap of the Women's Battle Royal number 1 contenders match from this past week, in which, who won that? Io won that. Then we cut to the Judgment Day. They're in their new downgraded clubhouse, to be honest. With, Dom starting to say something. He gets interrupted by Finn Balor, who says, "We'll have it all, except for the world title." You were just, Dom then says, "I was just one win away. It's not my fault. But now I'm just focused on helping Liv out." Finn then says, "Oh, so you're trying to go out there and handle the War Raiders yourself?" Then Dom replies, "It's obviously been a while since you held the world title." Finn then goes, "Well, I'm going to go to Adam Pearce, and I'm going to make an interesting match. It's going to be Dom and Carlito versus me and JD for the titles." And Carlito kind of rolls his eyes and says, "I'll go talk to Pearce." So, yeah, a little dissension in Judgment Day. We'll see if it ends up being a finger poke of doom, which might as well be. We then get this weird Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill vignette talking about, accepting all comers, etc., etc. They're trying with the women's tag division, but I don't know, it's falling kind of flat. We then get an in-ring promo from big old Bronson Reed. He's here saying, "I'm out here to say, Seth, you're a hell of a competitor, especially when you beat me, but I'm not a competitor. I'm a monster. I'll take out anyone who stands in my way. So Seth, if you want revenge, I'm right here." Seth Rollins' music hits. He comes out on the stage. He has a microphone. But instead of saying something, he pretty much drops the microphone, beelines it to the ring, and the brawl is on. And they're going back and forth on each other. The announce table is set up. Reed was going for a big tsunami. Rollins gets up, intercepts him with a super kick. Security comes out, tries to break it up, but Reed fights through him, gets a couple more shots in. Seth, then, who is being held by security, dips out of the ring under the ropes, goes around and just starts beating Reed from behind, which that was funny. Reed then pretty much takes out all the security, hits the ropes, does a big old dive, which that impresses me every single time. Seth moves, so security gets hit. Then officials come out to break it up. So, yeah, I'm going to say this. Is this being a little repetitive with the Reed and Seth feud? Maybe a little bit, but honestly, I like a good brawl. And they're still having Reed feel like a big deal, which is awesome. So then we cut to Seth and Pierce in the back in Adam Pearce's office, with Seth saying, I want this match. I want one more match against Reed. Then Pierce says, alright, one more time, but after that, it's enough. Enough is enough. Pierce then walks away. Who walks in? But Sami Zayn. Ooh. Interesting. So, Sami Zayn goes up to Seth Rollins, asks, I got something I can cheer you up. We need a fifth for War Games. And I think it should be you. Seth then kind of scoffs a little bit. Says, the only reason you're with them is because the family bond never goes away. Oh no, this is still Sami. I've looked up and down the roster, and you're our fifth man. Seth then just scoffs a little bit, says, I think you're out of your damn mind. After all he did to tear him down, you want me to build him back up? I'm shocked anyone would want to stand with Roman. So the answer is no. Ooh. And honestly, Seth Rollins on this Babyface War Games team, it's interesting because there's some dynamics here. Especially with Roman. So, I did see the spoilers, sadly, because apparently Raw taped the episode for next week after this episode, so I'm not going to reveal what's happening for War Games. Instead, we're going into this next match as it's Damian Priest taking on Ludwig Kaiser. And this was a really underrated matchup. Was it a bit predictable? Sure, but honestly, Kaiser really showed out. He showed I wouldn't say belongs in the main event level, but he could hang with main eventers. But, Priest wins with the South of Heaven. Post-match, Gunther comes out on the ramp. They have a little stare down. We then get a little, I don't even know what to call this, a little video of what The Rock has been up to lately, which is, fine. He's got a new movie out, which is weird. I don't know. It's interesting time. Then we get a recap of something very interesting. Something I don't think I've ever thought we were going to see. It was the recent episode of WWE Speed, which is over on Twitter. No, I will never call it X. Of, who was it? I think it was Sheamus and Braun Breaker going to a time limit draw in a match. So, that's going to be interesting. We then go to a Braun Breaker interview where he says, I'm in an interesting point in my career. I'm here with being the best in WWE. I would be here with 2 titles if not for Sheamus. Sheamus then walks in, says, I heard you're from all the way over there. I've been here for 15 years. You've only been here for about 15 minutes. And you remind me of me when I was young. And you have the one title that has eluded me all these years. Braun then turns around and says, you want this title? The answer is yes. There's nothing more I'd like to do than kick your old ass. They then have a little stare down. Sheamus walks off. So, potentially Sheamus getting the Intercontinental title. I would not be against that. So then, something very interesting happens. Jimmy Uso then scoots in the frame. He says, hey, Braun, you got a second? I'd like to talk to you about something. Talk about an interesting dynamic. So, Jimmy trying to recruit Bron Breakker. Especially what he tried to do to Jay. Definitely going to be an interesting dynamic if that happens. So, next we have The Miz. He's walking backstage and he gets intercepted by pretty much the entire Final Testament besides Paul Ellering. With Cross taking the lead saying, "Where the heck are the Wyatts?" Miz then says, "This is bigger than us. They got me thinking about my family. They've moved on. I've moved on. You need to move on too, Cross." Cross then says, "They attacked us and it's your fault." So, AOP then grab The Miz by the coat collar. They force him into the arena and the ring. Cross has a microphone somehow and he says, "You're lying. Your story isn't adding up. Where are the Wyatts?" Boom! Lights start going out. Boom! Fog starts coming up from the arena floor. No music this time. Then, spotlight comes on. There's the Wyatts. The Wyatt Six, they're on the apron. They all get in the ring. They have a big old stare down with the Final Testament. But before anything goes down, Miz, with a chair, attacks big old Eric Rowan from behind. And then it's just on. They just break out into a brawl. AOP hit a super collider on Gacy and Loomis. Scarlett holding her own against Nikki Cross. And then Cross hits the swinging DDT neckbreaker thing that I don't know the name of on Uncle Howdy. Final Testament then all leave, with Howdy kind of getting up, turning to the ramp, just laughing. I know a lot of people that don't like this. However, having someone get one up on the Wyatts, I'm okay with that because it adds a little bit more intrigue, makes things a little bit more interesting. Then we start to get a Seth Rollins interview. They're kind of outside. Then he sees something off camera. He says, "Excuse me for a minute." Walks off. They're then in the car park. And there's Solo Sikoa and his New Blood stable. With Solo saying, "I know you don't like Roman Reigns. I hate him. Let's team up and take him out." Seth then kind of laughs to himself a little. He says, "I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Next time I'm in the ring with Roman, it'll be to stomp his head in. And while I won't team with Roman, I'm not teaming with a wannabe Roman." And he walks off. I'm going to say this. I know a lot of people were expecting like Hikuleo and Lance Hawaii to join these two teams. I think the two bloodlines trying to recruit outside the family, I think is a little bit more interesting. Because with the dynamic of the roster and what pretty much both sides have done to the entire roster, them trying to find a fifth man adds an interesting dynamic to this match. So I'm loving these segments. And honestly, one I'm hoping for at least the weeks before Survivor Series, I want to see Roman try to do some recruiting. Like that This is going to be awkward and funny and just... It's going to be good. We then go to our main event of the evening, and it's for the women's tag team titles. As it's the Judgment Day, being represented by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, taking on Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And I enjoyed a lot of what this match offered, but ultimately there was something off about it. Like, obviously they're taking their time with the Jade Bianca breakup, but it's every week. It's oh, okay. Same page. But it's whatever. Have a nice little back and forth for a while. Then out comes Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. Stratton distracts the ref. And then Nia just hits a big old Samoan drop on Jade Cargill. They roll out of the ring. Tiffany is on the apron again for whatever reason. And then Naomi comes out. Takes out Tiffany. Then I think it was Liv who hit an X Factor on Naomi. And they just all start taking each other out. Bianca then gets Raquel up in the torture rack for the KOD for the win for her team. Post-match, Nia Jax takes out Jade Cargill, Bianca and Naomi. This brings out Io Sky, who fights back over the heels. And babyfaces stand tall in the ring. More than likely, these are going to be the women's War Game match participants, along with whatever fifth member we're going to get for each team. Fine. I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think this women's match needs War Games. Now, not saying they can't do it, because they absolutely can. Some of the better War Games matches have been the women's matches. However, it does kind of take away from what we're doing with the men. This is, clearly a blood feud, a family feud that could be settled in War Games. This, I think, could be settled with a more traditional Survivor Series style match, meaning 5-on-5 eliminations. Is it the best story for that? No, I don't think so. But, like I said, I don't think we need to jam-pack everything with War Games. Makes it feel less special. I mean, that's just me, though. If you're excited for Women's War Games, good on you. I don't know if I really need it. So, Nick, that's WWE Raw. I feel like they're doing better with the 2-hour format, which is always good. We'll see what happens on January 6th, because that is their debut on Netflix, which is very interesting. We'll see if they go back to 3 hours, which it could. Absolutely could. So, that was Raw. We now move on to NWA Power. And we got a preview vignette for the main event match, which is not Hudson Murdoch. Which is the Southern Six versus Kyle Davis, who is an announcer, and Colby Corino. So that match, we'll get to that match in like 2 minutes. First up, we got an NWA television title match. As Max the Impaler takes on Carson Drake. And this match was a little frustrating to watch. Like, I know Carson Drake is meant to be the smarmy, slimy heel, But every time Max tried to go do something, he bails out of the ring. And it just got frustrating. Eventually, Max did get their hands on Carson Drake. Got a little bit of a beatdown, but then Drake fights back a little bit. Hits a fist drop. Max gets up. Carson is going for some splash or something. He then eats a spear. Eats a big old clothesline. Ref then backs Max off of Drake. Drake with an eye rake, which leads to a 10 beats of the Bowery from Max, which that looked wild. Max was then going for the pin, and then we hear ding, 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 ding. The time limit has been reached. No winner, so this is a draw. But still, your television champion, Max the Impaler. James Mitchell, who was chilling ringside, gets in the ring, goes to celebrate with Max. Max then pushes James Mitchell out of the way. That's going to be interesting, because that dynamic is changing. We then get like an impromptu Carson Drake interview for whatever reason. He stumbled over to the interview area. He says, I just proved Max can be beat. Just like UPS, I keep delivering. I'm the most successful man in the NWA. I am undefeated. And Max, you're never gonna beat me. Okay, whatever you say, Drake. Max in a future match is absolutely going to demolish this guy. So, next up, we have a very interesting double interview backstage, as it's Primo and Epico Colon. If you know them, don't know them, they are the brother and cousin of Carlito. Which, that's interesting. They definitely held tag code together, but other than that, they weren't really given anything in WWE. They got released a long time ago. I think they were in Puerto Rico for a long time. So this is their first foray back into the US, which is interesting. With, I think it was Primo taking the lead, saying, NWA, you are now treated to the best team from Puerto Rico, now here in the US. I gotta say, I really liked the Colones when they teamed together. This should be a very, very interesting return. I can't wait. I'm excited. Then we get this weird match, as it's a submission match where the only way to win is via submission, as it's Jack Stane taking on Zion. And honestly, this was a pretty well-worked matchup. Really good back and forth. With Zion working Jack Stane's arm so he can't hit his finishers, which is very smart. However, after a bit of time, these guys go for pinfalls, and the ref counts it. That's what confuses me about this match. Shouldn't it be just submissions? Or did I not read somewhere? Did I not see something saying, oh, you can actually go for pinfalls in this match? I don't know. It's something that's been bugging me. Eventually, with his bad arm, Jack Stane with a pop the trunk locks in Trap City for the submission win. I really like Jack Stane. He's a nice little powerhouse to have on the roster. Hopefully he gets some gold soon, because I think he deserves it. Then we go backstage for a Natalia Markova interview. Apparently she's getting a title match soon. And she says, I cannot deal with the Page sisters anymore. I'm not waiting for the title match at Samhain. So next week, Kenzie, if you think I can't win the big one, just you wait. Alright, so we're getting a women's title match next week. Sounds like fun. Hopefully Markova can win the big one, because she's pretty good. Next up, we have the NWA National Champion, Mims, taking on Soda Pop in a non-title match. And this was pretty much the Mims show for a while. Soda Pop did fight back after a little bit. Then out comes someone very interesting. A very underrated wrestler that I think deserves to get more flowers. It's Burchill, a.k.a. Paul Burchill. If you don't remember him from WWE, I do not blame you. Because he was a part of some weird gimmicks. He was a pirate at one time. Then there was a time where he wanted to do something with his sister. You know, that was back when Vince was in charge. And that shit was stupid. Anyway, so Mims leaves the ring, gets in Burchill's face for a little bit. He gets back in, goes for a splash on Soda Pop. That misses. He fights back, goes for a crossbody. That gets caught into a suplex. And then Mims with the heart punch to pick up the win. I kind of hope Burchill has something interesting up his sleeve against Mims. Because I think that dynamic could work really well. So, and then there's this match for the NWA Tag Team titles, as it's Knox and Murdoch defending against Jake Powers and Christian Hunter, who look like, you know, creator wrestlers I tried to create on the WWE games. Powers and Hunter did try to fight a bit of the big guys, but they were way too much. Knox with a big old sky high, which that's maybe one of my favorite moves. Then a high-low to pick up the ring and defend their titles. So basically this was more of a message to the rest of the roster than a serious challenge. Although I did like the look of Powers and Hunter. They were more the underdogs trying to fight the monsters, which, I mean, it works if the monsters are heels, but Knox and Murdoch are supposed to be baby faces. So I don't know if it really worked. So next up, we got, honestly, a match I thought they could have gone with a little more time. It's AJ Kazana against Tommy Rand. So we've got Country Gentleman against Slimeball City. And this was definitely a really, really good matchup. One point, AJ Kazana gets dumped to the outside of the ring. Rand was going for a dive. AJ pulls his father in the way. Rand stops. And then AJ just keeps beating him down. One point, Rand does have AJ right where he wants him. But then Joe, who is AJ's father, sitting ringside, distracts Rand. AJ with the cross chop, which is a gnarly looking move. Then out on the apron, trying to get in Joe Kazana's face, is Chance, who is Rand's tag team partner. But then KC Kazana comes out, takes out Chance. KC then is on the apron. Joe then attacks Rant with his book that he has from behind. AJ with the dead to rights. So your winner, AJ Kazana. Perhaps a little bit overbooked, but it did get the point across. So I'm not going to give this match too much of a downturn. And then that is our main event of the evening, as it's a tag team match playa as the Southern Six. So it's Kerry Morton and Thrillbilly Silas Mason taking on Kobe Carino and announcer Kyle Davis. But what's interesting is Davis did start wrestling. Is kind of a wrestler, but he hasn't done it in like 15 years. So, Kobe and Kerry start off. They go back and forth. Kerry with a kryptonite crunch, which that was very interesting. Kobe then tags in Kyle, and I will admit, he did really good against Kerry, including a big old fist drop. Hit a very interesting suplex, but then Kerry tagged in the big man, the Thrillbilly, and he just absolutely destroys Kyle Davis, including with a razor's edge. Only gets a 1. Kobe then tries to get in to try to break it up, but the ref intercepts him. He then brawls with Kerry Morton for a little while. Ref then takes control of the match, gets each guy into the right corner. Kyle Davis then starts to stand up. He's not ready to go down. He spits right in the face of Thrillbilly Mason, who hits the thrill ride on him to pick up the win. Post-match, as the Southern Six are celebrating, Kobe's in the ring to check on Kyle Davis. Then the Southern Six turn around, start a big old beatdown on Kobe. Have Kyle Davis the hitchhook, which that looks very uncomfortable. Another thrill ride to Kyle Davis. Then something very interesting happens. Fellow announcer Joe Galli gets out from his announce desk with a metal pipe. He's kind of brandishing it at the Southern Six. Then out comes Brian Idol, who runs off the Southern Six, stands tall with Kobe. So, very chaotic finish to an interesting show. I dig stuff like this. It's interesting way to tell a story. We'll see what other allies Kobe Carino picks up along the way to take on. Honestly, I'm almost certain Alex Taylor is going to be involved in this. So, we'll see. NWA was definitely interesting this week. A lot of good wrestling. The only thing I would say is more of a downer was the tag team title match, which I'll admit was interesting, but was more of a message than a match. You know what I mean? So hopefully we get something out of that. And now we finish off with AEW Dynamite. And oh boy, was this fun. As we start off with Christian Cage and Hangman Adam Page. Yep, they rhyme. They're teaming together to take on the Bang Bang Gang, a.k.a. Switchblade Jay White and Juice Robinson. And this match was super freaking good. Like, really good back and forth, really good character moments from both sides, but especially between Hangman and Christian Cage, who, when they tagged each other in, weren't exactly sure about one another. Anyway, Juice Robinson then gets forced to the outside, where Nick Wayne was going to attack him. Then out from the crowd comes Hook, who locks in the red rum and runs Nick Wayne through the crowd. Match keeps on going with Jay White trying to hit the Blade Runner, kept getting blocked. One point, Hangman goes for the buckshot lariat, that whiffs. Cage tries for the kill switch, that gets blocked. Jay White then with a Blade Runner into the barricade to Hangman Adam Page. Robinson goes for a Juice is Loose, that gets blocked. Hangman goes for a Deadeye, that gets countered into a roll-up, only for a 2. And then when Hangman releases him, Juice kind of goes over to the ropes, and Kip Sabian takes Christian Cage's contract for his world title match, hits him with it. Hangman then hits a Deadeye to pick up the win for his team. Then we see Jay White. He's checking on Juice, making sure he's good to go. So, that Jay White Hangman Page match at Full Gear, that's going to be a fun one. Speaking of, we get a rundown of the Full Gear matches that are going down. Looks like an awesome card. Then we see a Mercedes Moné interview saying, don't ask the questions you don't want the answers to. You know what's up. Interviewer asks about the potential accident from last week, with Moné saying, it's not my fault Camille can't drive. And I'm not sweating Chris. Camille then takes Moné's stuff into her locker room. Then Chris Statlander comes out from behind the corner. She's seething. And she starts brawling with Moné. Camille comes out of the locker room. They start brawling with Statlander pretty much spearing Camille through the wall, which that looked nutty. That looked wild. So, the Statlander-Moné match should be another good one. We then go to the ring for an interview with Mr. Will Ospreay, where he says, I don't know, I've got a lot of questions that need answers too. So, Tony, I'm going to ask you to leave the ring, as I'm going to call out my former friend, Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher then grabs the microphone. He comes out. He says, family begged me not to come out here, but I called you out weeks ago and you didn't show up. But my family, they're never far behind. So, Mr. Ospreay, what do you want to talk about? Ospreay then says, I've been on all the family meetings. I know you've got something in your back pocket. You got to get it out of here. Fletcher then digs into his back pocket, produces the screwdriver that the Callis family used to attack people, gives it to Ospreay. Ospreay then tosses it to the outside, and it sticks, like pointy end down, and sticks right in the mat, which I think that's 1,000,000 to 1 shot. Ospreay then says, this man was once my brother. We took over every promotion we ever been to. You know everything about me, and that frightens me. Fletcher then pipes up and says, "That's the issue I have with you, Osprey. You're always taking credit for someone else's success. And yes, you did do a lot for me. But who are you really doing this for? Because I know it's going to be all about yourself." And you've made me do your dirty work for so long. And you're nothing but a selfish hypocrite. I just did what you would do. Osprey then replies, "Oh, give up, bruv. You're doing what I do. You said a few weeks ago that you're nothing like me. Well, is it that, or are you a Osprey clone? Pick a lane. In every continent, I've held gold. What have you done? You've done scrub all," which I kind of understand what he's saying there. Fletcher retorts, "What have I done? It's not what I have done. It's what I'm going to do. I'm going to surpass you. And at full gear, I'm going to prove it." Osprey then retorts, "There it is. He wants his 5 minutes of fame. And he's going to get that match on pay-per-view. Well, Mr. Fletcher, challenge accepted." Fletcher then retorts, "You have no idea the damage you caused. You've taken so much from me." And, no, this is actually Osprey. "I put this in front of you, and now I'm going to take it away from you." Now, this is Fletcher, who says, if you think whatever you've done was bad, I'm not just coming for a piece of you, I'm coming for the whole thing. So this brings out Brian Cage and Lance Archer of the Callis family. Osprey's like, "I knew the family wasn't far behind, which is why I got my crew." He brings out Hobbs and I want to say it was Kyle O'Reilly, but I could be wrong. They start brawling until it's just Archer in the ring. Then the Undisputed Kingdom's music starts. And then Roderick Strong comes out. They start brawling on the ramp to the back. Bell rings. So apparently this is match 3 of the series of who gets to face MJF at Full Gear. And apparently it's Falls Count Anywhere. So they fight to the back. Archer then chokeslams Strong through a table backstage, in which we didn't really get to see because the lights were off for whatever reason. They then brawl to ringside. They're kind of out in the crowd somewhere. This brings back Brian Cage. Roderick Strong tries to fight them both off, but it's a little bit too much. Cage and Archer tried to go for their chokeslam powerbomb combination, but that gets interrupted by Strong's teammates, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. They fight off both men for a little bit. Bennett fights with Cage to the back. Then Lance Archer fights off both Taven and Strong and hits Taven with a chokeslam off the barricade. Now, I don't mean he chokeslammed him on the barricade. It means he stood them both up on the barricade and chokeslammed him from there, which was wild. Tried to do the same thing to Roderick Strong. Strong fights out of it, hit a chop block to Archer on the barricade. They then hop the barricade, get back in the ring, where Roderick Strong finds a chair, hits his big old knee strike, and picks up the win. So Roderick Strong going to Full Gear. That's interesting. We then see MJF watching at home, where he's seething. We then get a Roderick Strong post-match promo saying, Max, at Full Gear, this all ends, and I'm going to finish this. Then out comes Konosuke Takeshita, who attacks Strong from behind. This brings out Adam Cole, baby! So this is our match 3 for Adam Cole. So he could either win and join the match at Full Gear, or Takeshita would win and Cole misses the show. So, match starts off like normal. Although Adam Cole's music is playing throughout the first little bit of this match, just so he can do the boom and the Adam Cole baby. Which, honestly, I kind of miss stuff like that. Moments like that are fun. It reminds me of New Jack from ECW. So at one point, Adam Cole hits a super kick and a Panama Sunrise. He goes for the boom. Takeshita ducks it, rolls to the outside, goes under the ring, brings out a ring box. He opens it. It's the Dynamite Diamond ring that MJF gave to Don Callis. Takeshita then puts it on. He gets back in. Cole goes for a super kick. That gets pretty much blocked. And then Takeshita with a big old straight punch right to Adam Cole's head with the ring on. He then puts the ring back in his banana hammock. Let's call it what it is. Takeshita with the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. So your winner, Konosuke Takeshita. Which, that was kind of a surprise. I was certain we were going to get Adam Cole in this matchup. I know there's a lot of people who are annoyed with this, but I'm kind of cool with it. Like, we are eventually going to see MJF and Adam Cole in a match together. But having it at another date is more than fine with me. We then cut again to the back to MJF's house. And he's just laughing up a storm. Looks like Takeshita's about to attack Adam Cole more. Roderick Strong is out to make the save. But he eats a big old low blow from Takeshita. Takeshita put the Dynamite ring back on. Then out comes Kyle O'Reilly to make the save. Which, that's a little interesting. So he runs off Takeshita. Takeshita looks to leave off the ramp. Coming out behind him is Ricochet, who gives him a big old super kick to the mush. And then he picks up the title, kind of celebrates with it. Back in the ring, we see Kyle O'Reilly checking on Roderick Strong and Adam Cole. Gets them both back up. Cole extends his hand to his former Undisputed Kingdom brethren, as does Strong. But instead of shaking it, Kyle O'Reilly bails to the outside and walks off. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So then, outside the arena, we see a black truck arrive, and it's the Death Riders. That's Mox, Claudio, Marina Shafir, and Yuta. No Pac, though, which is, I guess he's doing something overseas or something. I don't know. I'm not sure where he is. Anyway, So then we have an interview with the Hurt Syndicate, where the interviewer asks something of Bobby Lashley, but MVP interrupts, goes down Bobby Lashley's credentials, and asks Lashley, how are you going to deal with Swerve at Full Gear? Bobby Lashley then answers, Swerve is more dangerous to everyone else. I will end Swerve at Full Gear. Dem's fighting words, brother. So, then we cut to the ring. We see Claudio and Yuta beating up JD Drake for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. So then we see them get in the ring. We then see Mox and Shafir go through the crowd, get in the ring. Moxley then gets... then Shafir actually forces one of the AEW cameramen into the ring. And Moxley grabs a microphone, says, I'm thinking about Orange Cassidy a lot these last few days. Your friends aren't here. Taylor's sucking food through a straw. But I can tell you're undeterred. And you have your eyes on the prize, the AEW title. With everyone depending on you. And I have to make an example out of you at Full Gear. I'm going to stomp your face into burger meat. And everyone who is next will see that and run. We have the power. We have the title. And then this brings out Orange Cassidy. He's like, hey. Then we see Mark Briscoe and Tomohiro Ishii back him up on the ramp. And he says, I've come out and I agree with you, Mox. I believe you. Because what's in that case, it represents everything here. And you do have the power. You hold the AEW title. And we could throw down here right now and fight all over the arena. But that doesn't matter. Because I'm going to become champion. And to do that, I need to wrestle you. So at Full Gear, we are going to wrestle. And I'm going to beat you and take that title. But it still pains. I've still got a pain to get rid of. So Yuta, next week, we are going to wrestle. And I'm going to beat the pawn and take the king. Ooh, I love that. Mox then replies, let's see if you have the guts to beat one of your best friends. And I've got one message for everyone in the back. Abandon all hope. So at that point, Mox and his crew go to leave the ring. Then someone with a pink Sting mask dives from top one of the arena seats, takes out the Death Riders. It's revealed, it's Darby Allin. And everyone just starts brawling. We then cut to the parking lot with the big truck. Moxley and Shafir, they get into the truck. They're going to leave. Then Darby jumps into the boot of the truck. This brings out Claudio, who takes him and forces him into the garage door and swings him into it, which is just... Ooh, that looked rough. Claudio then gets into the truck with Yuta running for his life after him, eventually jumping into the trunk or boot of the truck. And rest of the conglomeration are out. You got Mark Briscoe checking on Cassidy. So, this segment was advertised as Moxley taking over the Superstation, which TBS hasn't been called that in a very long time. Like, I think since, like, the 90s. I was expecting a little more out of this. I don't know what, though. Like, something like that, maybe... I don't know. Maybe someone... Honestly, I was half expecting something out of Shane McMahon. Like, maybe they have him in the production truck messing with some things or something. I don't know. I feel like... I feel like something more was needed to happen than just another Moxley promo. Anyway, then we get an interview with the Learning Tree, because of course. But starting the interview isn't Jericho. It's Big Bill. Where he says, the challenge to Jericho from Ishii, a person's true self is not in glory, but in challenge. Those are some interestingly deep words. Like, holy heck. I really like that. So, then we go to Jericho because, it's Jericho. He's the leader of this stuff. And he says, I obviously have a soft spot for Ishii. When I was over in Japan after a few years, he was nothing but a young boy, but he became the toughest wrestler in the world. So Ishii, I do accept your challenge for Chicago. But know this, I'm the 9-time world champion, and I'm going to teach you a lesson you won't soon forget. Bye, guys. I gotta tell ya, I am sick of Jericho. Like, I understand why he's here. He's here to be a big name for AEW and get viewers in, get people interested. And his time has long passed. So next we get the official announcement for the Continental Classic. No participants have been revealed yet, but with who just became a free agent, we might be seeing a bit of a surprise. And my only hint, I think he's going to be involved. So after that, we got our next matchup of the evening. It's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, taking on Penelope Ford. There was something really off with this match. Like, not saying it wasn't good, it was a nice little back and forth. It felt like Dr. Baker was just going through the motions. Like, I don't know what to say about it, but interesting counter, though, near the end of the match. Ford has Dr. Baker in the Muda lock, which don't see that a lot this often. Baker gets out, locks in the lockjaw for the submission win. And as Dr. Baker is celebrating, you get Serena Deeb out on the ramp with camera cuts showing Dr. Baker saying, no one cares. No one cares. So, like I said, there was something really, really off about this match. And I cannot put my finger on what it was. So then we go to the car park. We get a Mina Shirakawa interview. Hey, glad to see Mina back. And she says, I'm excited for the world title match on Collision. And afterwards, we're going to have a champagne celebration. So in comes Harley Cameron of all people, who says to Mina, welcome to the Harley of Harley? I don't know what that means. Anyway. Um, Mina then says something in Japanese, with Harley then saying, "You and me, may the most women win." Mina then says, "I got no problem with that." And then they just shake their their breasts at one another, because why not? I don't know. The women's division, I feel like the women's division is taking a weird step back, and I don't know why. And now we get back to a little bit of the good, as we have Swerve Strickland taking on Lio Rush. And apparently Swerve was the mentor for Lio for a couple of years in wrestling. That's definitely pretty cool. This match was absolutely pedal to the metal since minute one, in which at one point both men go for a dive, land on their feet on the outside, and they just have a stare down with one another. That was sick. Multiple points, Swerve goes for the stomp, but Lio either gets out of the way or blocks it. A lot of really, really good back and forth, including a frog splash, only for a 2. Lio then goes for the cutter. That gets blocked. Swerve with a couple of strikes. Then Lio with a roll-up for only a 2. Lio goes for a big Hurricane Rana. That gets caught. Swerve with a crusher, which that's definitely an interesting move to finish this match off, with Swerve picking up the win. Swerve then grabs a microphone, saying, "Everyone gets idea to come after me. Is my name is to prove a point." Lio tried and failed. Shelton Benjamin tried and failed. And I'm going to remind you whose house this is. And now tonight I'm going to give people a fight. I'm not running, and there's nowhere to hide. So this brings out MVP and Bobby Lashley on the ramp. MVP has a microphone. He says, "Swerve, your fight with Bobby Lashley on Sunday. If you really want to fight with Lashley, all you had to do was ask. Swerve, I really like you. You have unrealized potential." And then at that point, Lashley's taking off his jacket. He's unbuttoning his shirt. MVP then takes a glance at him, says, "Oh, Lashley is ready to fight. I guess we don't have to wait." They start taking steps towards the ring. Then MVP stops them. And he says, "Swerve, you got one more lesson to learn. That there's strength in numbers. And you should turn around and take that in." So at that point, Shelton Benjamin comes in from behind Swerve and just beats him down. Eventually, Bobby Lashley and MVP get down there. Lashley joins in with the brawl. Then MVP is just mean mugging Prince Nana, which just looks weird. Bobby Lashley with an insane spine buster to Swerve. Officials try to come at. Then Lashley locks in the Hurt Lock, which definitely cool to see it. Lashley bringing that back. Officials come out. They're trying to stop it, but Shelton Benjamin is blocking them the whole way. Swerve then rolls out of the ring, and Lashley pretty much tosses Prince Nana to the outside, and he hits pretty much everything on the way down. So, this match between Lashley and Swerve should be interesting. We then get an interview from Jamie Hayter, who pretty much says, "Question on everyone's mind right now. I'm just going to continue what I do. I'm here to right wrongs. And I'm thinking of coming after one thing. So she wants her belt back. We'll see if that happens. Then we got another interesting Julia Hart vignette, in which we see her wake up with a bloody, suit on. She then goes check herself out in the mirror. Her reflection is the House of Black version of herself. Then she hears a little at a door. She kind of opens it. It looks like it's outside, and she keeps getting handed stuff, like her old hat, bow and arrow for whatever reason. And vignette ends with kind of look at Julia Hart in her regular garb. So, happy Julia Hart's coming back. Can't wait to see what she has in store. And that brings us to our main event, as it's the next qualifying match for the full year Fatal 4-Way for the tag team titles, as it's FTR taking on Malachi Black and Brody King, aka the Kings of the Black Throne. Before anyone else comes out, Private Party go in their VIP area at the top of the ramp. And this match, main event match, absolutely ruled. Like, this was such a good little back and forth bout. It made me believe in tag team wrestling again. So to finish, FTR are going for Power and Glory, which is the Superplex Splash combination. But Malachi kicks Cash's leg out. Brody King with the Sky High. Malachi dives on Cash, but only gets a 2. Malachi goes for the end, but that gets caught. House of Black go for the Dante's Inferno. That gets immediately countered into FTR's Shattered Machine, but only gets a 2 count. Brody going for a big old pile driver. No. FTR going for a pile driver. That gets blocked. A couple of clotheslines by King. That only gets a 2. Then Brody locks in big old sleeper hold to Dax Harwood. He fades. He doesn't tap. Ref comes over, checks on him. Hand falls. So your winner, moving on to Full Gear, the Kings of the Black Throne. And honestly, it's about time. So, post-match, you see the House of Black. They help FTR up off the mat. They have a little stare down. They shake hands. So, House of Black are now going to Full Gear. That should be an interesting little matchup. And hopefully we get something out of this. Should be a fun Fatal 4-Way. So, Dynamite was an absolute banger of a show. A lot of storylines forwarded. My only down for this show was the Britt Baker-Penelope Ford match. Something was way off with this match. And hopefully Dr. Baker, if it's Dr. Baker or if it's Ford, can get things together again. Because I know they can do better than that. So, that is it from me. I hope you all enjoyed. And on Monday, going to be covering SmackDown Rampage, and I am going to try my best to get to Collision. Till then, I hope you all have a great evening. Till next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.